The biggest survival anthem in music history was never supposed to be heard. Her own record company buried it. They printed it on the back of the record, the side nobody plays, behind a song they were sure would be the hit. That other song reached number 107 and disappeared. And the woman singing it. Months earlier, doctors told her she might never walk again. She recorded the most defiant song of all time standing in a back brace, hoping she'd survive long enough to finish it. Then the dance floor did something the record company never saw coming. This is the story of how a throwaway B-side, sung by a woman everyone had written off, became disco's biggest anthem of all time. By 1978, Gloria Gaynor wasn't a nobody hoping for a break. She was already royalty. 3 years earlier, her album Never Can Say Goodbye had done something no record had done before. It ran 3 songs together with no gaps, one continuous 19-minute rush built for the dance floor. It became the first record ever to top Billboard's brand new dance chart. The clubs crowned her the queen of disco, and she earned the title. So picture where she stood, album after album. A reputation built in the only room that mattered, the one with no chairs, just bodies moving. She was at the top of the genre that was, at that moment, the biggest sound on earth. And that is exactly when everything fell apart. What happened next didn't happen in a boardroom or a studio. It happened on a stage in front of a live audience, in a single second nobody could take back. The fall. It was New York's Beacon Theater. Gaynor was mid-performance, moving with her dancers, doing exactly what she'd done 1,000 nights before. And she went over backward, over a small monitor at the edge of the stage. She finished the show. She didn't know yet what she'd done. The next morning she woke up and couldn't move her legs, paralyzed from the waist down. She called for help and said the words no performer ever expects to say, "I can't move." Doctors found a ruptured disc in her lower spine. She needed emergency surgery. They removed the disc and fused 2 of her vertebrae just to give her a chance to walk again. She spent roughly 3 months in recovery, strapped into a back brace that ran from her hips up to her underarms. And while she was lying in that bed, barely able to sit up, the news reached her from her own record label. They weren't renewing her contract. Word went around the company in plain language. The queen is dead. The queen of disco. Written off. From a hospital bed. By the people who were supposed to believe in her. But here's the part that turns this from a tragedy into a legend. Because while the label was busy burying her, somebody was about to hand her a song scribbled on a torn piece of brown paper. The song nobody was betting on. The song didn't start with her. It started with 2 former Motown men, Freddie Perrin and Dino Ficaris. Perrin was no lightweight. He'd helped write #1 hits for the Jackson 5. And Ficaris, the man who wrote most of these lyrics, wasn't writing about a breakup at all. He was writing about himself. Motown had let him go after nearly 7 years. He was an unemployed songwriter, sitting alone, wondering if he'd wasted his life, when he turned on the TV and by pure chance heard one of his own old songs playing. He took it as a sign. He jumped up on the bed and said it out loud, "I'm going to make it. I will survive." That's where the song came from, not from a love story, from a man refusing to be discarded. Now here's how it reached Gaynor. The record company hired Perrin to produce a different song for her, a cover called Substitute. He agreed, but only on one condition. He got to choose what went on the B-side. He brought in Ficaris, and together they put their survival song on the back of the record. They scribbled the lyrics onto a scrap of brown paper and handed it to her in the studio. She read it once. She knew, instantly, this is a hit. And then she sang it in that back brace, fresh out of spinal surgery, grieving the loss of her mother who had passed only a few years before. Every ounce of fear and defiance in that vocal was real. She said it herself. That's why she could sing it with so much conviction. She wasn't acting survival. She was living it. A song about refusing to be thrown away, recorded by a woman the industry had just thrown away. So with a voice like that on a song that good, the record company put it front and center, right? No, they did the exact opposite, buried on the back. Everyone in that studio knew which song was special. The musicians knew, the writers knew. Gaynor begged the label to release it as the A-side. The president of the record company said no. He wanted Substitute. He thought it was the safe, radio-friendly choice. So the song of the century went out where almost nobody would look for it, the B-side, the flip side, the afterthought. And then the market spoke. Substitute, the song the company bet everything on, climbed all the way to number 107. And stopped. It barely registered. It vanished. By every rule the industry lived by, that should have been the end. A failed single from a singer they'd already written off. File it away. Move on. The experts had made their choice. And the experts were about to be overruled by the only people who actually mattered. The dance floor overrules the label. Gaynor and her husband didn't wait for the label to change its mind. They took the record themselves straight to the most famous dance floor on the planet, Studio 54. They handed it to the resident DJ, Richie Caxer. He flipped it to the B-side, dropped the needle, and watched the room react. New York crowds don't fall for just anything. Gaynor knew that. So when the floor lit up, she understood what she was looking at. She gave Caxer a whole stack of the records and told him to pass them to every DJ he knew. And they did. One club, then another, then every club. DJs across the city were flipping the record over on their own, playing the side the label had buried. Then the radio stations heard what was happening on the dance floors and had no choice but to follow. The demand got so loud the record company couldn't pretend anymore. They surrendered. They repressed the single, and this time they put the survival song where it always belonged, on the A-side. The label discarded it. The dance floor rescued it. And the people won, the payoff. In March of 1979, the B-side Nobody Wanted hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it didn't stop in America. Number 1 in the UK, number 1 in Ireland. Number 1 in Canada. A song that had been printed on the back of a record was now the biggest single in the world. Then came the part the industry could never have scripted. At the 1980 Grammy Awards, it won Best Disco Recording, beating Bad Girls, beating Boogie Wonderland, beating songs from artists everyone expected to win. And here's the detail that makes it perfect. That was the only year that Grammy category ever existed. 1 year, 1 winner, forever. More than 14 million copies sold around the world. Decades later, the Library of Congress placed it in the National Recording Registry, preserved as a piece of American history. It has charted again in every decade since the 70s. And in 2025, Gloria Gaynor was named a Kennedy Center honoree for a lifetime of work that the industry once declared finished from a hospital bed. The song they hid on the back of the record outlived every song they put on the front. That's why this one never became background music. Listen to it now and you can hear it. That's not a performance of survival. That's a woman in a back brace who had every reason to give up, refusing to. The industry said the queen was dead. The dance floor said otherwise. And nearly 50 years later, the whole world is still singing the song they tried to throw away. Now here's our question for you. If the experts can be that wrong about this song, which disco classic do you think never got the credit it deserved? Tell us in the comments. We read every one, and the best ones become the next video.